Because I was always traveling from outside of the city. I'm like, okay, I gotta like pack everything.
Yeah.
Including 2 sizes of dildos, a little harness, an outfit, toothbrush, the basics.
Checking backpacks at the door. Let me see your strap.
Yeah. 9 inches or more.
Ooh. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective podcast. My name is Carbon.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Marissa.
And welcome to the show.
As you can tell, we have a very special guest with us here today. We have... Say hello to all the fans. We have Marissa, who is a community builder, a event planner, a DJ, a drag king, and of course, the founder of Strapped, which is a very sexy queer and BIPOC events organization here in Toronto. We're going to be diving into a lot of really exciting topics, including BIPOC dedicated spaces, white allyship, safe spaces, a little bit about cancel culture, and the disappearance of queer dedicated spaces. To start us off, we kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about you and about the origins of Strapped. Would you be able to tell us how you first got involved in event production and what motivates the work that you're doing?
I guess it goes back as far as to when I was doing like house parties in university. I started to just throw my own. I'd have my friends over and it was always just a really fun time. What really got me going on creating queer events in particular was I then started to go out to clubs, and the clubs that most people end up at was Cruise and Tangos.
Classic.
And, right? So I would go there, and that's where I would finally see like queer women, non-binary folks. From there, meet other people who were having parties and try to like make it out to all different things. Didn't live in the city. I was living in St. Catharines at the time. So a lot of my friends who I'd met through parties were just like, where are you finding these events? I'm very much a person of the internet. So I would be like following this person, this DJ and that DJ. So I made an Instagram account called Queen Tio with a V. Started just reposting a lot of people's events. The feedback that I got from a lot of BIPOC community was like, oh, I went to this event, it was like really white. And I was like, oh, well, how do we change that?
Yeah.
And I was noticing the same because I like came into this community and those were the only spaces I really knew. I was living in St. Catharines, which already was like very white. So then going into these spaces, I didn't know anything else. So when I finally started to explore the ballroom scene in Toronto, that's when I was like, whoa, there's Black gay people
Everywhere.
I found you.
Right? Found you.
They're all here.
Yeah. And it wasn't like they were speckled through at like certain events. Like they were all there. And it was like so beautiful to see because my background's Jamaican. And that's where I started to see more people who were queer and Jamaican. And I was like, oh my God, like we can relate on the same things. And growing up in church, we can joke and like laugh about that. Having that community, I felt really inspired to kind of connect with event producers that were already creating spaces, pick their brains and see like, why aren't more people of color coming to your events? What could you do to make your events more accessible? I held this workshop, invited all these different producers, and it was really sweet to have that discussion. But having all those people in the room didn't change anything. I organized this thing. I got snacks. We talked.
You got the snacks.
I got the snacks because I'm like,
That's
you
serious.
can feed people and they will have better ideas, like
Yeah.
it's hard to think when you're hungry.
In this workshop, you said that like it didn't really go anywhere. Like what did you talk about and why do you think that nothing really changed?
What we talked a lot about was what was done in the past. Before I was in community, there was Slacks and like quite few other like lesbian focused bars. Spaces where like queer women were going to. I wanted to know like where they all went. Like if you were throwing a party out of there, why didn't it then move to another location? Like what's the tea essentially? What we learned from those conversations was that a lot of people either like they've lost the energy to be able to continue to make parties. They don't have the finances to be able to continue to. In addition to that, just a lot of the people who were producers were not Black. They were not people of color. So it's hard to then be like, hey, you as a white person, why aren't more people of color at your things? I did see some people kind of like take away from that as like a way to have more people of color on their lineups. But in doing that, it kind of is like, hi, I'm like a white producer and I'm sprinkling in people of color so everyone can stop coming for me.
Yeah.
You know, like it
Right.
felt more like cover up. Yeah, it just didn't feel authentic still.
Right.
When I would go into certain queer spaces that were focused on like queer women and non-binary folks, it was like being the only Black person amongst a sea of white people.
Yeah.
And then in that same thing, because I'm the one of few different looking people in the space, it's like I almost become prey. Being in these spaces too, it's like you're the one person of color. Make sure our photographer gets photos of you with people so that we can post it on our Instagram. We're diverse. And then I kept seeing that. I'm like, there's so many people at this party. Why is my photo like the front of your website? People are like, oh, do you run that party? I'm like, no. I went
just all over their
time.
website.
Yeah. There's like 20 of me in all different places. I'm putting all of the people of color to the front of my social media so that when people follow or look at our page, they're going to go there and be like, wow, so many people of color come out to this. I need to be there. And that's what like people of color, when we're looking to go to events, we want to feel represented.
Of course.
So naturally, if we see like, oh my gosh, look at that. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I really wanted to do the work myself, because I couldn't just leave that on other people to try to do. But yeah, it was through doing that session, and then I guess part of me was like, I wanted to see change immediately, but it was taking too long. So
Yeah.
I had reached out to Club 120 and was like, do you have any like dates available? Maybe I can just whip together a party, you know, and like spend some time and like develop something and have that be like an example. And they were like, yeah, in 2 weeks we have a space. And I was like, 2 weeks? Bet, let's
And
do
then
it.
you took it.
I took it.
So you decided to create your own event after that workshop then.
Yeah, like it was originally going to be just like, I make this party and then I show you guys like, okay, see, you can do this.
Right.
You do it now.
Okay, so what did that party entail then? How did you construct your very first party?
The second I got the date, I went and like I just had different ideas of names. The one that stuck for me was strapped, because I'm like, you know, like you can stay strapped because at that time too, because I was always traveling from outside of the city. I'm like, okay, I gotta like pack everything.
Yeah.
Including 2 sizes of dildos, you know, a little harness, an outfit, toothbrush, the basics.
The basics.
Yeah.
My straps, toothbrush.
Yeah. So like the joke amongst my friends was like, okay, Marissa stays strapped.
Stays strapped. Okay, so it's a theme with you.
Yeah. And
Lip gloss, strap.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, there's a time that I like was at Glad Day and I completely left my backpack. And I was like, okay, hi. There's a bag and it's brown. On the inside, there's I want to say it's maybe like 9 inches and it's purple and girth. If you see it, can you just let me know? I miss her.
Did they find it?
I was like so drunk. It ended up being at my own home.
Oh.
So just to like have to do that, like it took everything in me to like work up the confidence to be like, okay, I'm going to call them to just find it in my home.
Did you do one of those when you like somebody calls back and is like, can you not listen to the last one, please?
I just had to, like, for a minute, I just didn't go back. And I also do the thing of like, I'm going to make a joke out of myself so that you guys can't make fun of me.
I'm gonna beat you to it.
Yeah. So I definitely made like a Facebook post about it. Yeah. This party that I created, I started it by making an Instagram account after I thought of the name Strapped. Followed a bunch of like queer people through other queer pages that I'm like, okay, your little tiny display picture, you look POC. Follow you, follow you, follow you. And then I just like started to post queer memes that were very like Black and then also very like sapphic. I want the people who find these jokes funny to come to the party. And I did a lot of like specifically calling people out, being like, oh, I bet at this person who had like a huge following would come to Strapped. I bet they would have a fun time. Just like really like corny things, because then they were just like, who is this?
Yeah.
And then followed. They're like, oh, what is this party? So I made it. And then everyone's like, oh my God, the Strapped is like a special invite. Like, what is this party? Do I have to bring my strap on? Like, what are we going to be doing? And I was like,
oh,
who knows?
But come prepared and bring your strap just in case.
And then I did this one thing. If you bring your strap, you can have prize.
I love it.
I was pulling out every trick that I thought would be like funny and
Like
also
checking
exciting.
backpacks at the door. Let me see your strap.
Yeah.
9 inches or more. Yeah, it like got people to buy tickets, and I was nervous still because I had never done like a ticketed event. It was more like house party, like come through at this time. Night of, I had like, I want to say the space had maybe like over 250 throughout the night. I was shocked. I don't know who told who. People really came out. I had a exotic dancer because they had poles. And,
Cool.
And I was like,
use them.
Book someone to go on it. We did a fundraiser. We had all Black queer DJs. I was really trying to be very intentional. And it was just a really big success. But I was like, this is just a one-time thing, guys.
So what made you realize you had to do it again?
People started getting real FOMO from seeing the photos that were being posted. I haven't seen something like that before, especially with queer women and non-binary folks. Like in the gay men world, there's tons of that.
They kind of have it figured out.
Yeah, and
they're
they've
set.
got their whole cycle, and they're also like men who make more money, so then they have like
and then they drink more too.
Exactly,
which is, like,
so they're
money.
able to sustain the bar and all those minimums. I was actually able to achieve that with this venue. Like their bar sold so much, they were impressed. They gave me money back. I was like, no. The reaction to it was amazing, and I just was like, okay, I guess this is the work I am destined to do.
I love it.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important to have BIPOC-specific spaces, especially within the greater queer community?
Quite a few things. Like Toronto in particular is a place filled with so many people of diverse cultures and backgrounds, and a lot of people land here through like going to school. A lot of people come here without their family, you know, like, and come from all different parts of the world. So when they have spaces like this, it kind of brings them a sense of community and brings them to a place that feels like home. To be able to see yourself, to have something that you can relate in addition to your queerness is just something so beautiful, and helps, I know for myself, helps with my own growth. When I only saw like white lesbians, I was like, do I need to now have a mullet and wear leather jackets? Like, what is my vibe? It helped me grow and like come into my own identity a lot more by being able to see myself represented. I was able to feel a bit more normal in my identity and not feel so like zeroed in on in
like
spaces.
the odd one out.
Yeah, and like it's so uncomfortable to feel like the odd one out when I already am by being queer. Like I have my day job where I'm like surrounded by whiteness. So it's like, I just need a little break. I want to see people who look like me, even if we aren't like hanging out, just to be among it, like is just so beautiful and so helpful in like personal development and just enjoyment.
We just did an episode kind of about the spectrum between internalized homophobia to like gay audacity. What we kind of came to at the end of the conversation is like, you can get to that level of gay audacity of just like being your full self when you're surrounded by people who make you feel safe and comfortable and are like mirroring kind of what you want to be, you know? And it's like, you feel that most often at like Pride or at specifically queer events. And it's like, that's what you're creating for people, is like a space where they are seeing themselves around and they can reach that level of like gay audacity. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's just like be themselves.
Yeah.
If you don't see yourself like in the lineup, in the organizers, you're probably not going to go. And if you do go by accident and you don't see that, then you're probably not going to have a good time. You're going to be like, ooh, I don't belong here, which I have definitely felt many times in a variety of spaces.
This next piece I want to jump into is kind of a critique that we've received in the past of making like queer specific spaces and content. I find it to be outdated in general, but I think it could spark an interesting discussion. The critique that creating queer and BIPOC specific spaces is segregationist or divisive. What are your thoughts on that?
So this was feedback that I got so much, and it was so disheartening. You know, back when there were capacity limits and I was still trying to like work within those limits that were existing, I had to really think of how do I prioritize BIPOC community. A space that usually could have like 300 people in it is now only letting me have 80. How do I make sure that like the people who attend are able to also be able to be amongst their community? So I remember I made it a post saying like, okay, because there are quite a few white people who are attending the event. And that's no shade to them. People have white partners. I'm not saying white people don't come to strap. But I remember making a post that like, if we get to a point where we are at capacity, we will have to ask if there are any volunteers to leave the space to allow for more people of color to come in. In my mind, I'm like, this is fair. But then people took it one way and they're like, well, what if I am white passing? Am I going to be kicked out of the party? This is segregation. I'm feeling excluded. Is this only for Black people? And I was just like, well, guys, I felt like I made it really clear. Honestly, the people who didn't really get it, I don't think belong in these spaces to begin with. But it was like really disheartening that like there were some people who went on a whole like campaign about it. And what made it disheartening was sometimes it was from other people of color. That were really like frustrated by this like suggestion that I made. I had to sit with myself. I'm like, am I segregating people? Like it's an inclusive space, yes, but now am I making it exclusive? It's tricky to kind of figure out like where do you draw the line? You want to make space for people and you want to especially prioritize BIPOC community who already feels underrepresented and like oppressed in so many different ways. Like, how do you make space? And it was just a lot of me just deciding to just stand my ground in that and create the space and really take in and listen to the feedback that I'm getting from community. I don't think it's segregating at all because it's a space. And everyone can be in a space. No one is asking you not to be in a space. It feels funny to be like, what, guys, I have white friends. You know, like I literally have white friends.
How many? Tell me their names. No, I'm kidding. One is sitting across from me right now.
Right? I did an ancestry test. I'm 4% Irish. So
welcome to the community.
They're biracial. The girls that get it. And the girls that don't.
The next kind of piece is about white allyship. So if you don't get it yet, don't worry, there's still hope for you. There's always like space to learn, I feel. I think in terms of white allyship, it's like the discomfort often comes from a place of like not knowing or understanding. For me, I think like this discomfort, it comes from worrying that you're going to say the wrong thing. And the way that you fix that truly, and the way that like I fix that fear, is by fucking educating myself in spaces with people who you don't share identity with, is just by learning. And that's the same thing that I say to people who want to be better queer allies as well. It's like, educate yourself, like listen to some of our content, you know what I mean? It's like understand what the actual lived experience feels like, and then you won't be so scared of messing up. Like it really is that easy.
It's so easy. Google is free. Google is very free, you know, and there's so much, the AI bots, they do the things
so much
now.
Content.
There's so much stuff out there. All around, there's so many different ways that people can help and support, and I am not going to do the work of educating people. You can ask your friends, you know, like I'm hosting this space for people of color to take up space. That's it. That's my goal.
I feel like this can be mirrored really with queer spaces. It's like, do you appreciate and enjoy the fact that there's queer specific spaces? You know, so there's people who enjoy that there's queer BIPOC specific spaces as well. And it's like, yes, like allies are welcome in these spaces, but you need to show up on our terms. You know,
those are the people who really need to take a step back and like think like, okay, I see that this event is for this. Why do I feel so entitled to the space? And if I do attend this space, how am I going to support the space as opposed to take the space?
And there's so many other spaces that you can be in. It's
Honestly,
not that deep.
It's not.
So from your perspective, do you think there are any reoccurring mistakes or misunderstandings that a lot of white queers make? And how do you think they could work to do better?
A lot of the time, a mistake that's made is that they depend so much on their people of color groups and friends to give them that information. It just feels lazy. Like, you know, like if you have a test, you study for your test so you do well. Or you copy off someone. You know, both get you a result. Other hiccups that I see a lot of the time is with a lot of like events. I can't say as a person of color how to make their spaces less white when you are white in the space. I don't know how to change that up while being white, but it's something to really like sit and reflect on. And I think that's really important. Like, how do I make people of color feel seen and feel comfortable. I think a lot of people don't take time to think outside of themselves. It's not something that just naturally comes up because it's not an experience that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot of unlearning.
Yeah.
That has to be done. And it starts from you, you know? Like, how are you unlearning what you've already, like, all your preconceived ideas? How are you now putting that out into the world and the people around you? And I think a lot of people are afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And these mistakes happen. The amount of times that people would be like, oh my God, I love your braids. I'm like, where? As a person of color, if I have a close friend who like made that mistake, because we have that connection, I can be like, so like when you go to other people and you say that, please know that's not braids. These are braids. These are locks.
Yeah.
What you just said right there is also another big part, is like diversifying your friend groups first.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh my God, like I'm trying so hard to like get people of color to come to my thing.
Yeah.
You have no people of color friends.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like your friend group is all white.
So what I wanted to say is, if this part of the conversation is making you uncomfortable, one thing that I would recommend is looking into the topic of white fragility. There is a really good resource that I read that honestly helped with this, and it's called White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism, and this is by Robin DiAngelo. It's a book that comes from a white perspective and someone unlearning this piece in their life, and I think that actually helps a lot of people, and I would really recommend reading it.
Because there are a lot of people who are white and have done like looked into a lot of things and have researched and like their friend group is diverse. But now that they've done all this research, they believe they are an expert. There's like levels where it's like, okay, you are very unaware and have to do some work. And now you also think you are so aware that you know more things about like the queer or Black queer experience more than me. Like I had someone try to Out-Jamaican me.
Who was white?
Who was white? And I'm like,
And not from Jamaica?
yeah. And I'm like, babe, just because you go there more than I do, why are you now correcting me? So it's also like, humble yourself, you know, like, and listen more than you talk. And like before you talk or to talk on something, make sure that you are coming from a place of like your intention is to listen and learn more so than to also educate someone because you are educated. You didn't read a book and become a new race. You know, like, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's like you still are at a privilege.
Yeah.
Use that on your own, like white friends, your
Exactly.
family,
I was just
your
about to say
fam. Talk to your racist grandma.
Yeah.
No matter how much you read, or even no matter how much you ask about somebody's life, you're just not going to experience it.
Yeah.
And that's something that you will never have, but you can sympathize.
Watch out when you're being the loudest voice in the room and try to amplify other people's voices and listen more than you're talking when you're in a space that's queer or that's BIPOC. But also it's like our job as allies, especially if you're an educated ally, is to help educate other people.
Exactly.
And stop putting that labor on people of color or specifically like on queer people if we're talking like straight allyship. Do you have an experience where you felt truly supported by a white ally, and could you share what made that experience meaningful?
A couple times where I felt very like held. It has mostly been with people who weren't like actually white, but more so like white passing, and them understanding that privilege and being able to hold space for me when I had like moments of like frustration, and I've been able to like kind of lean on friends. I've had a lot of that, and that feels really good to just like have people who are genuinely listening. These little things where I'm feeling like heard, I'm feeling seen, accepted, and not judged.
So the next direction we're going to kind of jump in is around safe spaces, which is a conversation that we've been having a lot lately, especially as we're kind of moving into the event space just a little bit. In your experience, do you think it's possible to actually create and promise a safe space to the queer community, to the BIPOC community?
The short answer is no. It is impossible to create a completely safe space. The second you leave your home, the second you go outside, there's so many like varying factors and different things and personalities. Like it's something that I had to really like sit with in myself, because a lot of the time like it's language that's within queer community is like safe spaces. Like did you ever have like in your school or university where it was
Yeah.
that little triangle? And it's
Yeah.
like, this is an LGBTQ plus safe space.
They used to throw that shit around a lot.
What does that mean? What is it? Do I
How
stand
did
here?
Yeah.
It's become a thing where we say like this is a safe space. Kind of changed what the word safe means. I think what people mean when they are saying like this is a safe space is that like queer people can come here. But outside of that part, maintaining the safety of like them not being treated weirdly by a bartender or like security even, like that's a big thing. It's like
Yeah.
Or other patrons. Like, you don't know who's going to walk through the door.
You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So it's a language in terms of like spaces, like events and things like that we have to kind of find a different word because safety for a lot of people is different.
Yeah.
Right? Like my safety might feel different from your safety.
100%.
Totally.
You know?
And that's why like
Yeah.
we've moved towards the word welcoming. It's just like it feels like a huge responsibility to promise people the word safe.
And I don't think you
know?
can ever fully promise. Something may happen that was like completely out of your control. And then just by that happening, you have broken your promise.
There's little things that you can do and like help make it less, I guess, triggering. But there's no way to like fully guarantee that safety. And it's not even just a queer thing. Like even if you were straight and you went to a bar, they don't walk around and be like, this is a safe space. You know, like a safe.
Everyone's safe here.
Everyone. We have a triangle.
So in contrast, I kind of wanted to take this into the other side of safe spaces. And that's when we are trying to create a safe space, but we miss the mark. I think we found that like doxing and cancel culture runs really rampant among us. I think the qualm that both of us have with it is like how much energy we find folks put into pulling people down who have overall positive intentions. Many people will put so much energy into getting mad about like a mistake that you made when there's so many people in the world who are doing so much horrible shit. You know what I mean? It's like, i.e. like oil company CEOs. It's like some shitty politicians. It's like people who are really doing some bad shit. It's like, oh, whatever, they're bad. But it's like this person, it's like, set my eyes on you, you know? Do you think there's an appropriate way to handle a situation like this? Because obviously there does need to be some kind of accountability for people.
It takes making a mistake, unfortunately, to be able to learn and grow from it. Especially in queer community, we can be really like hard on each other. We are very like, I'm educated in gender studies and social justice. I'm an activist. I'm vegan and gluten-free. I don't know if you remember a time where people were very into like educating people on their grammar.
Yeah.
You know? So it's very much that kind of vibe.
Feels like that energy.
Right? And there's so much space and so much capacity for people to grow. More than ever, we need to kind of get away from the cancel culture. After even just listening to this, look into transformative justice and restorative justice and see what that means and understand that concept and see how it can actually change and help your communities grow. There was this time I made like a group from the US, which like American queers, very different than like the queers in Canada.
What are some of the differences?
At least in Toronto, we're a lot more political. Toronto is quite more diverse, though it's still very like white. It's quite more diverse than a lot of like American cities. And us all trying to like respect everyone, be nice and be fair and like say sorry for everything, you know. I had a time where I think they were based in like Atlanta or Florida. They had sent a video and they're like, hey, like, can you reshare this video? It's for a new podcast we're doing. And I was like, oh my God, like I followed you guys on TikTok. Yeah, absolutely. Didn't even watch it because I was like busy.
Yep.
I was busy and I like posted on the story and there was like a header in it that said something like, it had something to do about being like, I am bisexual, but I'm married to a woman. So now I'm lesbian. At the time, I was just like, this is so dumb. Like, you know, because I'm like, we're in Toronto. That's like not a thing. Like, you're bisexual. If like, it's, it doesn't
your
change.
identity is bisexual.
Yeah. They're gonna like, everyone's gonna see this as a joke, right? No. No. And like, understandably, like a lot of people had like saw it and they were just like, I'm kind of disappointed to see this on Strapped. Though I posted it and was like, well-meaning, it really wasn't the place for that. It's not anything on people being sensitive. It's just it's community, and it's like it's not something that we want to continue to see or like even spread. People messaged the account to kind of be like, hey, like disappointed in this. And then some people were like, oh my gosh, I'm screen capping all of this strapped. I hope and it's like, it's not that deep, babe. It's not that deep. Cancel me if you think, like, don't attend the events, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I'm going to take this criticism and hold myself accountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm not a person who's afraid to take accountability because, like, I can learn. You know, a lot of people can learn. People make mistakes, and I find that people do a lot better when they know that, like, there's room for them to fix things.
I agree. Yeah. I also feel like there are a lot of people where it's like they tell you what to do in order to, like, repair it, but according to them, right? Like, you have to say sorry, and then you have to do this, and you have to make this post, and you have to talk about this thing. They're not gonna learn if you tell them what they have to do. Yeah. They have to actually reflect, first of all, and then come up with their own responses. Canceling somebody doesn't really help, and telling them exactly how to respond doesn't really help either, because then it's just like checking a box rather than putting in the work to learn something.
Yeah, for people listening who are these kind of like keyboard warrior type people, because it does happen a lot, I find, especially on YouTube, honestly. Like, YouTube is the harshest platform ever. People act like there's like nobody on the other end. I'm like, oh, this is what cyberbullying feels like.
Yeah, I learned this at a young age when like YouTube was just new.
People are savage.
Literally made a video of me and my friends dancing, and they were like, "You're making fun of that song, and like you don't understand how serious it is. You guys are actually like," and calling us all kinds of names.
It's like, I'm 12.
Literally, I was 12, and I was like, I hate the internet.
But I would say just like remembering that there is like a human being behind this, and also acknowledging it's like, would you be willing to put in the level of work that this person is putting in to like create these spaces? You know what I mean? It's like, have you done that? Yeah. You know, I feel like I often do welcome the critique of other organizers, like, even more, because I'm like, okay, like, you know what it's like to be in this position, and I really value your critique, and I do value community's critique 100%. You always have to take things with a grain of salt and like sit there with yourself, and it's like, okay, I think to do our work you need to have a thick skin and be really willing to take critique and to learn.
Absolutely. You know, there's also like the approach too, like, how are you approaching these critiques? Are you saying like, hey, love your work here, but this and this and this made me feel this way,
which I appreciate, and some people do.
I totally appreciate that. I respect that approach, and I'm like, you know what? That's valid. I'll take that into consideration, and I'll like sit with it and reflect on it and try to improve on it. And then there's people that are just like, you fucking suck, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I can't take anything from this.
Yeah. I also am confrontational and passive aggressive. On the internet, it's just like, you're so lucky I have to sit here and type, because if you caught me on the streets and you said this thing, it would be a different Marissa. You know, I have had to do so much unlearning and so much just like pausing or not reacting, you know, because sometimes people just want a reaction. And like just being able to kind of strip that ego away. And just let it be. Let people kind of like say what they have to say, because even when they say things that are like, you know, like they didn't say it in a way that's like palatable, they made that effort to communicate this. Right. I've had someone like message me about an event once and was like, I heard straight people got in for free, and like that didn't happen. But I'm like, let me sit. I feel like I sat on it for like a month, because I was like,
I'm still sitting.
I'm like still sitting, because I'm like, I don't know where you got
stood
that.
up.
No, I'm sat.
I have bed sores.
Yeah,
bed rest. I stay strapped and I stay sat.
I like that. I'm gonna make that my bio. But like, it was really like taking my time, because I'm like, part of me was just like, like, why do people come for me when I'm literally one of the few like BIPOC Black organizers in the city, and I'm making this space and it's still not good enough, you know? So it was taking me a lot of time to like sit with that and like think like, okay, yes, I am making these spaces, but also like if someone feels this and this and this happened, where did that come from? How do I remedy this so that it's not something that comes up again or like makes people feel not great having to share space?
I've learned to not respond in the heat of the moment right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah,
It's like
I
sleep
find
on
that
it.
the first response is probably not the best.
Yeah.
But you said a couple of really good things there. Taking a pause was the first one. The second is, where is it coming from? What made you feel that way? On the other side of that, there's only, like you said, a few people that are BIPOC and running BIPOC-specific queer events. We also have to remember not to be so hard on people that are trying their best. It doesn't mean don't hold people accountable. It does mean don't discourage them because they're one of the few creating these things.
Yeah. And people are more willing to like give the negative over the compliments. It's like those like reviews online. You go to a restaurant, they're like, I went out of my way to make a Google account just so I can tell you how bad this restaurant is. And then I'm never going back. They aren't on there like complimenting them unless they got paid or they work at the place and they're like, great food, the best. And you look up their name, their staff.
It's true.
You know, I hope that in general people are as quick to compliment as they are to critique. Like it's something that we all collectively can do. Like I love to hype people up.
I think that's a really good transition into this next topic about like queer BIPOC spaces disappearing. A big piece of that is how challenging it is to create these spaces, to do the work that we're doing. A lot of people don't realize how few people are behind some of your favorite queer and BIPOC organizations. On the internet, it's like things can look so polished and so great, and it's like, wow, they're doing so well. There's so much space for critique and everything. Often it's really not the case. It's like one or two people. And if you want to see these spaces continue to thrive, I think as a community, we need to remember to support them, you know, with our dollars and also just with like our energy too. If you don't have the financial means to support someone, your energy, your compliments, just engaging with someone's content does so much more than you think. When people send us even just like a really nice thoughtful DM about how our content or events like impacted them, you wouldn't believe like how much that helps us. You know, it's like when you're continuing to try to keep these spaces really accessible for people need to realize how little amount of money, especially for events, it's like it's a very expensive thing to operate. Like the people
the profit
behind it
margins are like non-existent.
Thin. They're so thin. I was wondering if you could talk about your experiences with queer spaces disappearing. Like, what do you think some of the reasons are, and why do you think this is happening?
A lot of the time it's like the cost. If it's a new space, like something new that you're creating, you might not have a relationship with the bar or the venue that you're working with to be able to work out a deal where it's like beneficial in both ways. Not talking about like the gay men because they have the money to like buy the drinks, but as a whole, they still aren't doing like bottle service. Like I've never been to a queer event where it was like, let's get bottle service.
I think it's this like culture of like men trying to show off and like impress the other dudes that he's with and also impress the girls of like, I have all this money, you want to come to my table.
But it sounds very bisexual. Like, ooh, I'm trying to impress my guy friends and the girls.
They do though. They do try to impress the boys.
Guys be like, I'm fighting demons, but it's bisexual thoughts.
But it's interesting. So I guess like, I don't know, queer people aren't trying to like impress like that.
Maybe they'll like get you a shot like, hey.
Yes. I will do that.
Right?
Buy you a drink.
Or with my dance moves.
Though.
Just one. I'm going to impress you with my dance moves. I know this song. I'm going to sing the lyrics in your face. We do different things. We have different kind of meaning call.
I thought it was interesting that you brought up like the queer femme spaces specifically struggle a lot. I found statistics for this. I think one other huge piece I would love to point out is just like the almost like non-existence of specifically like lesbian bars. Like often they don't exist. If they pop up, it's so temporary. According to a study by National LGBTQ Task Force, the number of queer bars in the US decreased by 37% between 2007 and 2019. And then these numbers were even bigger for spaces dedicated to women, trans, and non-binary folks, with the same study reporting a 43% decrease in the same time period. So like we really are losing our spaces. And I'm just wondering if there's any way around this.
It's so challenging because prices aren't going down, you know, like tequila stocks aren't going like I don't know, you know, like the stocks aren't stalking.
You know what? I think that was the smartest thing you said this whole episode.
Thanks so much. You know, I'd be here all day. It's so difficult to say because the rent is high, especially if you live in Toronto. Your own personal rent is high. If you have like 20 cats because you've had so many lesbian lovers, that drops them out. You know, like there's just everything is so expensive. Life is expensive. Food, everything. A lot of organizers are just using spaces on their off night, you know, like Saturdays and Fridays. These bars are already making the money that they need. So that's why they're quick to offer us a Thursday, because it's like, we'll make the money on the other days, which is a great offer. But it's like, I don't want to be drunk or hungover on Friday morning, you know, like it's tricky and it's hard to really say like how to make this stop. Unless we get the government. There's definitely like the possibility to, and there have been spaces that the city is like, I think there's one called OK Studios. The city had like given them this empty space because they had set out to like have it demolished at a certain point. So they were like, here's this space, use the space. So if they did stuff like that, that was more specific to queer community. I think we could have space that's attainable.
All these spaces are so dependent on alcohol. And alcohol sales is like, is there a way to make it not all about alcohol?
What else can be sold in this space?
What else?
Because there honestly, in general, there's a huge movement towards sobriety as well, especially amongst like femme identifying people.
These non-alcoholic like mocktail kind of companies and stuff, they're not even like capitalizing on this movement. When banks, for example, realize that there's a huge like queer crowd, and if they just cater to that crowd, they would get more queer clients.
Well, it started with gay men, actually.
Exactly. No, exactly. I know that. But obviously this would be the opposite, because gay men are still doing their thing. They're still drinking. They still have spaces available to them. If these like non-alcoholic mocktails cater to a queer crowd, they might get the same kind of a result for people who are moving towards sobriety. That's all I'm saying.
How do we think that we can further support the creation of these spaces?
I think with the resources that community collectively has, if there's people who are really good at writing grants, you know, if there's someone, there has to be in queer community, someone who's like dad runs like an alcohol company, or like they're the CEO, someone. I feel like there's someone there. If you know you've got something that can help towards community and building community, think outside of yourself in the terms of like, okay, well, like it's not going to benefit me directly. It can benefit so many more people if you just like have that resource and try, you know, like to spread it. There's ways that we can, like outside of the government, outside of all of these pressures, rally up, find money, find funds, find sponsors, and use our connections to come together to create something that then helps support.
The biggest ways that Queer Collective specifically has grown and that we've been able to get sponsors, honestly, that have like really supported our work in meaningful ways is when we have like an ally or someone in the community who works within these companies who is like championing us. And that is such a huge thing. It's like, use what you have, you know? It's like, it doesn't have to be your money. It can come in so many different ways. It's like, if you want to volunteer your time to one of these organizations, even if it's just for like one day, one event, it's like, you can contribute your time, you can contribute your connections. Like there's so many different things you can do.
You can bring somebody up in conversation and be like, hey, I know this person that I think would work really well with your thing.
Be a connector. Well, I think that's a really great place to leave this. And I really enjoyed this conversation with you.
I did too. Thank you both for having me.
We'll put all of their links below in the show notes. Definitely give Marissa and Straptio a follow because it's a really fantastic organization that we love and support.
So that is everything that we have for you today. If you want to watch more interviews, click this link right over here. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.